What happens when the earth itself swallows someone whole? Not just one person, but 3 children, gone without a scream, without a single trace. One minute they're laughing, digging in the dirt with flashlights clutched in small hands, and the next, gone. No footprints, no sound, no goodbye. Hannibal, Missouri, 1967. 3 boys disappeared after school on an ordinary Wednesday afternoon. And the terrifying part? No one has ever found them. Joey Hoag was 13. His younger brother Billy was 11. Their friend Craig Dowell was 14. Regular boys. They liked science fiction comics, muddy shoes, and pretending they were explorers. The kind of kids who'd beg their moms to let them stay out just a little longer, just to finish one last adventure. And on May 10th, 1967, that adventure took them straight into Murphy's Cave. The cave was local legend, hidden behind weeds and gravel near where a new highway was being built. Murphy's Cave had been part of childhood curiosity for years. It was dark, jagged, always a little cold no matter the season. Construction crews had been blasting rock to clear space for the highway, and with every explosion, the ground shifted. Locals heard the booms echo through the earth, deep and strange. And yet, the boys went there anyway. At around 4:30 p.m., someone saw them heading toward the entrance, carrying shovels, flashlights, and wide grins. They were going back to the cave, just like they talked about that morning at school. It was the last time anyone ever saw them. Their parents knew something was wrong before the sun even dipped below the hills. Dinner was getting cold. The streets were too quiet. When night fell and there was still no sign of Joey, Billy, or Craig, panic set in. The mothers knocked on doors. The fathers grabbed flashlights. Within hours, the entire town was looking. The search began that night and didn't stop for days. Murphy's Cave became a focal point. The entrance was just a crack in the rock, barely wide enough to crawl through, but beyond it was a maze. Some tunnels were so tight adults had to take off their gear to squeeze through. Others dropped into shafts with no bottom in sight. Rumors spread that the blasting had collapsed part of the cave. Had the boys been inside when the earth gave way? The Mark Twain emergency squad was called in. They'd never seen anything like it. Soon the National Speleological Society joined. Hundreds of people climbed into the belly of Hannibal's underground trying to find the boys. People above ground stood in silence, waiting, listening, hoping. Nothing. Not a single scrap of clothing, not a flashlight, no footprints, no voices calling for help, just silence and stone. The Hannibal mayor called the Missouri National Guard. Trains were stopped and searched. Police scoured the river islands, thinking maybe, just maybe, the boys had wandered off. Some thought it was kidnapping. Others feared something worse. The town clung to theories because the truth was unbearable. Clairvoyants from across the country sent in visions. One woman said she saw the boys locked in a train car full of oranges. Investigators searched every boxcar they could find. Still nothing. No signs. No clues. The cave swallowed the boys like they never existed. 10 days in, the official search ended. People wept openly in the streets. Teachers left 3 desks empty at the school. Mothers sat awake at kitchen tables, staring into nothing, waiting for footsteps that never came. But Hannibal didn't forget. Decades passed. People grew older, moved away. The trees near the highway thickened, but the story stayed. The mystery kept pulling people back. Then in 2006, almost 40 years later, construction workers uncovered a forgotten entrance to Murphy's Cave while building an elementary school along Highway 79. It was sealed tight, untouched since the original searches. Investigators went back in. Cameras, drones, new technology. Still nothing. Some say the boys never went into the cave. Others are convinced they were trapped behind a collapsed wall, just a few inches of rock away from being rescued. And there's a darker whisper too. One that says maybe the cave wasn't what took them at all. Maybe something else did. One thing is certain. Joey Hoag, Billy Hoag, and Craig Dowell walked into the woods with flashlights that spring afternoon, and they never came back out. But what if they're still down there? That question has never left Hannibal. Not in the quiet hours of the night, Not during school field trips when local kids walk past that patch of land off Highway 79. Not even after 58 years, because a mystery that deep doesn't fade, it stains everything around it. For decades, the story of Joey, Billy, and Craig kept turning in people's minds like a gear that never stopped. Families moved in and asked about the cave. Retired officers kept boxes of old reports tucked away in basements. Every now and then, someone would swear they remembered something. An old man claiming he saw the boys near the train yard. A woman sure she saw someone matching their description by the river. None of it led anywhere, and yet the town kept trying. In 2019, a podcast called The Lost Boys of Hannibal sparked new interest. It wasn't just a retelling. The hosts dug in old maps, testimonies, overlooked mine shafts. They found construction records, land use changes, eyewitnesses who'd never spoken publicly. They even interviewed engineers and geologists. And what they found was chilling. The Murphy's Cave system, it turns out, was much bigger than people knew. Maps from the early 1900s showed tunnels stretching under the town, twisting beneath homes, shops, and rail lines. Some paths were so old they'd never been surveyed. Others had been sealed during construction in the 40s and 50s. The cave could have had dozens of entrances and just as many exits. One theory gained ground. The boys had followed one of those paths too far and got trapped behind a collapse. Not crushed, but cut off. Alive, maybe, for a time. That theory haunted people most of all. The idea that Joey, Billy, and Craig might have spent their final hours or days in total darkness, waiting, listening, hoping to hear the scrape of boots on stone. In 2020, a group of private searchers raised funds to scan parts of the cave system with ground-penetrating radar and 3D imaging. They identified several suspicious voids underground, possible open chambers that had never been explored. But the equipment only showed so much. To get inside, someone would have to dig, and digging under a town, through buried and forgotten caves, is dangerous, expensive, and slow. Still, the team pressed on. Every week, someone reached out with a new theory, a hidden room in an old building, a gravel pit that might have once been a cave opening, a rusted manhole cover behind an abandoned garage. People were desperate to believe the answer was still out there, just buried, just missed. Others believed something else entirely, that the cave story was a cover, that someone abducted the boys before they ever reached Murphy's Cave. Maybe they were lured away, maybe taken by someone who knew the area and the town well. But that theory always crashes into the same hard wall. If that's true, why was there never a ransom? Never a body? Never a single clue? Even now, locals walk their dogs near the old highway and glance toward the woods. Kids still tell each other not to go near the cave after dark. And in the town's small museum, a yellowing newspaper with the boys' photos sits under glass. Their faces are frozen in time, bright-eyed, full of mischief, unaware they would soon become a ghost story no one could shake. And yet calling it a ghost story feels wrong. These were real boys. They had birthdays, report cards, favorite cereals. They weren't a legend. They were somebody's brothers, somebody's sons. And someone out there still knows what happened, or where they are. The worst part isn't that they were never found. It's that they disappeared in a way that felt impossible. No sounds, no signs. Just three boys walking into the earth and never walking back out. People ask, why does it still matter? Why keep digging, investigating, chasing leads nearly 60 years later? But in Hannibal, the answer is simple. Because the town never said goodbye. Because a hole that big in a place that small never really closes. And because maybe, just maybe, there's still a shovel or a flashlight or a worn backpack waiting to be uncovered. Waiting to say they were here.